This webinar is now broadcasting to attendees. All right. Hello, everyone. Just give us a few minutes here while a few people log on. Can everybody hear me okay? Just go ahead and chat in the sidebar there if you guys are having any issues with audio or anything. Thanks, Paul. That sounds like you can hear me fine. Just give us a few minutes here while we let a few more people get on. All right. There we go. Now I got to share my screen. Which one do I want to share? All right, is everybody able to see my screen okay? Where's my over here? There we go. All right. Just a couple more minutes here. We got a few more people coming on. How's everybody doing on this Thursday morning? Some of you guys are probably out on the East Coast, some on the West Coast. Pretty early for you guys out there still. What do we got? 10:05. All right. Well, right on. So it's been a while since we've done a webinar, and I know I talked with Jack over at Clear Estimates a while back, and said, hey, you know, we should start doing the webinars again, and just try to stay consistent, because we did about 4 or 5 of them last time we were promoting you know, different processes and systems and such, and things just kind of got busy and a little bit too much to do with my business and creating the content and material for the webinars. But it's been I've brought on a couple additions to my team, so it's been very helpful to have some additional help here and with my company, and they've been kind of the driving force behind putting this all together for us. So we should give a big shout out to Jessica and Kyle Nelson. They've helped put a lot of this together, and they're kind of behind the scenes here today. And then Jack and Alex over at Clear Estimates both had kind of collaborated on the process too. So we've got a series of webinars we're going to do each month going forward, and we'll notify you probably within the week of the date and what the topic's going to be for the next webinar. But today we're talking about passing the baton. So as we all know, you guys, we get out and we sell these jobs, and then we've got to move from working with the client, whether it be from a design or sales standpoint, you know, estimating the job, we've got to move into actually building it, you know, and that process can be, you know, it can be kind of complicated, but at the same time, if you're a smaller firm and all on your own, then, you know, it's pretty simple. You know, from my perspective, it's been a few years since I was out in the field, but, you know, probably 16 years ago, you know, I remember when I sold the job, I estimated the job, I ordered the materials, I purchased it, picked up, I handled everything. so things just went smooth. But, as my company grew, I got further and further away from the field and, was restricted to behind the desk more and more. And what I saw is I just continually ran into more issues, I basically became a fireman. All I was doing was putting out fires with clients and, solving issues with my production team, my lead carpenters and my installers, because they never really had all the information that they needed. And it was nobody's fault but mine, because I didn't have a good process in place. And the frustrating thing for me was, like, I understood it. I sold the job, and I would get phone calls from my foreman or from my crew, and they'd ask me things about the job, and I knew it cold because I'd already designed it and estimated it. I've already built that project multiple times, but nobody else had. So nobody had the information and the understanding that I did, and no one else had worked with the client and really knew what the client's expectations were. So it basically became, what we all know as communication breakdown. From the point that I was out of the loop with the client and the production team was taking over, they didn't have the information that they needed when they needed it, and it created problems. So I was forced to implement a system, and luckily enough, it didn't all happen overnight, I can tell you that much. But luckily enough, I was able to eventually get something in place that really prevented a lot of issues and started to make things run a lot smoother. And what that led to was happier clients, more profitable jobs, and less headaches. So what it all comes down to is what you're looking at here, and I'm not sure where this quote came from, but proper planning prevents poor performance, and that just runs true and true. I can't stress that enough, that put in the time ahead of time instead of just getting going and just winging it, and I'm sure you saw in some of the material emails that we sent out, and I'm willing to bet that there's a few of you guys that are probably guilty of this, because I know I was. And we were all eager to just hurry up and get to production, to rush into the construction phase of the project, because that's when the cash flow starts flowing. And, that's for most of us, that's the first check on a job. And it took me a few years to realize that you really got to take the time and, and put it in, put in the effort ahead of time before you go to production, and make sure that you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's, and everything is the way it needs to be. Otherwise, you're just asking for problems. And I think I'm speaking to the choir here, but at the same time, the only time to really save time or money on a project is during the design and planning phase. And we, as a company many years ago, we developed the design build methodology, and we slowly put more and more effort into project development, which is just design, planning, and just putting, developing the project to where we know what the owner's expectations are, and we put everything together to where we have a well thought out plan. And that is critical. So, but even with that, so what we're going to go through today is I'm just going to basically run you through the process, that I've developed over the course of 2 decades, more or less. And, the benefit for you guys is, I get it. When you're grinding it out, you're working 12-hour days, and then you're working even later in the evening trying to estimate these jobs and run your business on top of managing and installing and doing all those things. You just can't do it all. It is really difficult and very challenging to actually build out your business, build a system or a process and implement it. And I get it. Trust me, I get it. And it's been many years now, but I can assure you that I've invested a tremendous amount of money in consultants and helping, having them help me build up my business because I was so busy I couldn't do it. And nobody knows your business better than you do. So what we're gonna cover today is basically the keys to the production success. And if you want to achieve a successful project, and get happy clients and, not be stressed out with problems, you cannot take, we all know, we're doing it, but you can't take the old WAG, the wild ass guess approach. It just, you might get lucky. And sometimes I'm sure some of you do, but it's, I'm not a big gambler, and you really shouldn't be with your livelihood either if you're doing it. And, maybe you get lucky more often than I did, but I know that I paid for it when I didn't put in the time and do what was necessary ahead of time. So the things we're going to cover today are managing owners' expectations, and that's a big one because it's pretty easy for a salesperson to overpromise something that you're not going to be able to even fulfill. The other, from there, it's the benefit of having a really accurate and detailed plans and specifications. So we're talking about whether that be your blueprints, your drawings, whatever's necessary for your project to get built. Most people are getting just the minimum, a permit set of plans, and then they go, off to the races. Well, there just isn't enough information there. So, and the third thing is spending the time to actually produce an accurate estimate, and with that, you've got to have clearly defined scope of work. And and what that really what comes down to is you understand exactly what's going into that project, so you know what it's going to cost, and the client understands precisely what they can expect from you, what they're going to get for their money. So then from there, it's really just, you got to set the stage. If you just jump right in, the client really doesn't know what to expect. It might be just common sense to you as far as what happens with a remodel project, but most clients, this is the biggest investment and probably the first time they've ever done a big remodel project or whatever size projects you do. But most clients, some of them have done it before, most of them haven't, and they're relying on you as the professional to advise them and to take them on this journey and make sure that they get from, an idea and concept to, fulfilling their objectives and building their dream home. So from there, once you've set the stage, and you've done, taken the time to do the proper planning, you really, if you've done that, you're enabling yourself to get things right the first time. Nobody likes mistakes. It just costs everybody money, doesn't fare well with you and your client. And it can only go downhill from there. And then another thing is really, and trust me, I can speak from experience here. It's easy to kind of overcommit yourself and, overpromise, and then not be able to deliver on that, so, really the goals that I've realized that you should always underpromise and overdeliver, and then the last thing is probably one of the most critical things, and one of the most overlooked ones too, is just communication. You've got to stay in touch with your client and anybody that's, on your project team or that's a project participant. So whether that be a vendor, contractor, subcontractor, architect, engineer, whoever that may be, everybody needs to be in the loop and make sure that they're, up to speed on everything that's happening. Otherwise, they're really not going to be of much use to you and the client. So moving in, so we're going to cover those things, and I know that this has tremendously changed the process for myself and many of my consulting clients, and made it a much more efficient and more enjoyable process, for project development. Not only that, but actually building the project and dealing with the clients and resulting in happy clients. So I'm anxious to get into this and, provide you guys some value and expertise, and hopefully you guys can glean something from this and implement this into your business, because that's the next best thing is you got to take action. And trust me, I talked about it for way too long, until my problems got big enough to where I had to deal with it. So number one, again, is managing owner expectations. So this whole process starts, when you've got a lead and you're working with a client, to sell that client. Many of you, I'm hoping you guys are charging for a design agreement or a project development agreement. You're billing your client to put that project together. I really hope you are. If you're not, let's talk. I can help you guys do that. It's a no-brainer. For many years, I ran around and did people's bidding only to lose the job to chuck in a truck for $100 cheaper than what my price was. And I know you guys, many of you have. If you're not still doing it, you've experienced that. So this all starts. The sales process starts with figuring out, what the owners expect, what their scope of work is. What are their expectations? What are their objectives? So, we can use any number of project examples, but for today, we'll just use a whole house remodel, which I'm going to show you some specifications and an estimate and different things and clear estimates and builder trend on that here shortly. But most clients, at least anymore, the only clients that I work with are the ones that have larger projects that require design and project development. And because of that, I'm able to charge a pretty handsome fee to help those clients get from the idea and the concept into something that's feasible and knowing what that's going to cost them. So it's, managing their expectations. And again, you guys, I'm preaching to the choir here, but I'm willing to bet that you guys have had a client that shows up and they say, I want to remodel my kitchen. I want to add on to my master suite and remodel my bedroom or bathroom and tear out a wall and make the kitchen bigger. And they've just got this laundry list of projects that they want to do, that probably adds up to, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 and their budget's $70,000 or something like that. We've all had those clients, and it's, it's not their fault. It's TV and, and the internets have misled them. But at the same time, it's your job to help them understand what things cost and what the reality of it is. So my experience has shown that basically the process of project development, you can help clients go from big dreams, hopes and dreams, which just isn't realistic, and take their budget, let's say it's a $70,000 budget and their overall project was $300,000 that they really wanted to do, scale back on the overall scope of work and increase their budget and find that happy median to where, once you've provided the information in the form of, designs, 3D models and plans and blueprints for the client, they can see what they're going to get and you are able to tell them and express what it's going to cost. So it's easier for them just to buy from you. So, but even that being said, you've got to have a process in place to manage their expectations, because if you just start, and again, there's many contractors out there. I don't know if any of you guys are practicing this method, but I know that I hear about and experience, clients that or work with clients that have experienced where the contractor will come in and just lowball the client to get the job and then just start hitting them up with change orders. Well, to me, that's just bad business. And that's almost, to me, a downright fraud as far as I'm concerned, unless you really don't know. But the client is trusting in you to be the professional. So that's who we are. We've got to be that for them. So we've got to have a process. We've got to have a good understanding. If we don't know what they want and we don't know what it's going to cost because we don't have a good understanding and a clearly defined scope, well, then you need a process to develop that and figure out what that is. And that's what project development is. So one of the main things that, it's really easy to start. The client's going to have a bunch of different information, and we start with some simple forms. And, from before we even start talking with the client, we may provide them, depending on where they're at in their life cycle, as far as the lead or, in the sales process, we may provide them with access to what we call an initial design agreement. And we don't need to even spend any time with them at that point, but they can start filling out this design agreement and gathering their information, such as, I want to add on this many square foot, here's the dimensions of the addition. They can measure their kitchen if they're going to remodel that and figure out that and help them establish what their scope is, what their objectives are. And that's always going to evolve as the project moves along, but letting them do some of that groundwork, and you just providing a tool that really doesn't cost you anything because it's not taking up any of your time, that provides value. So this what you're seeing here, this overview is just one small piece of that, in which the clients, the basic project, and this project here is an actual new home, but so it's not really relevant for remodeling, but at the same time, it's building. So it's 2 stories, 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, 3 garage bays, 3,187 square feet, full basement. You've got the basic parameters of that project. Okay. So we know that we can come up with a rough estimate of what that's going to cost, but we really don't have any idea what the level of quality is going to be for their surfaces and what roofing they're going to use and so on and so forth. So you've got to keep going, but to initially establish, an initial budget to help the clients realize that they may not be able to build everything they want, you got to start somewhere. So, just establishing what their objectives are, and then always talk about the budget. I used to be scared. I literally used to be afraid to talk money with clients. I don't know why, but it was a mindset thing. That's all it came down to. But now, literally the first conversation I have with a client, I'm talking about what their budget is. And if they're not willing to provide a number, they don't have a number, I help them establish a number. And the reason being is because I don't want to spend any more time with them than I need to, but also it's our job to help guide them. So if they saw some TV show that says that they can do their whole kitchen for $3,500, in 24 hours, well, it's our job to, explain that that's entertainment, not actual TV, even though they call it reality TV. So, the project budget to me is an evolving thing, but it's also, you've got to talk about it from day one. And that number, will eventually, you'll arrive at what the actual project's going to cost and what the owner's willing to spend. And then that will define the scope of work and set the owner's expectations moving into the production phase. So another thing is, as part of that, there's, as you guys would all know, there's the sky's the limit as far as how much you can spend on certain products. For example, if we're doing an addition and we know that we can frame the floor and put in the foundation, that's those costs, those structural, those building material costs are going to be pretty standard, unless you're really going outside of the scope of, a normal process or wall system or floor system. But what I like to do with my clients is I like to let them choose. I don't tell them, I give them the information and inform them. And then once they've got the information, they're able to interpret that to the point where they can decide. So what you're looking at here is I've got my budgeting tools and estimating tools are all built around a database, but at the same time, there's different levels of quality. So, everything from economy standard, above average, premium, up to luxury. And there's way higher end than luxury, and there's even cheaper stuff than economy. But for this, those are my parameters, and I explain to the client, what type of product, what quality of installation falls or fits within these parameters, and I let them choose where they feel like they fit. And that's going to help determine their overall budget and a price point for the project. So it's really just giving the clients the information they need to make a more informed decision. And what that results in is a better buying process, and the clients enjoy it. Instead of being sold and told this and told that, you're educating them and allowing them to purchase, to buy what they want. So the second thing, and I better get moving here because we're already a half hour into this and running out of time already. But the second thing is detailed plans and specifications. So I can't stress to you enough the importance of having a really good set of plans. And if you guys are producing, or you guys are designers yourself or design build firms, great. If you're actually producing the plans yourself, fantastic. If not, find somebody that can, that you can partner with, and or a third party that can do this for you. But I highly advise that you bring that in-house, because if you're outsourcing it, you're just asking for more issues for the whole process of communication. You're the one working with your clients. You've got the information, the interaction, you understand the project. So if it's not you designing, it needs to be your design team needs to be the one actually doing that. And if you're outsourcing it, that's okay. It works. It just doesn't work as well. I also feel that you're kind of giving that money away. And some of you guys might laugh at that, but at the same time, once you start doing, actually charging for design and planning, the whole project development, and not giving away free estimates, you'll never go back. And it's a pretty good feeling to basically get paid for your time and actually be able to spend the time and produce a really detailed and accurate estimate, because you've taken the time to actually sit down and design the project and produce a detailed plans and specifications. So ultimately, once you've done that and you do have a good set of plans, you're able to procure much more accurate bids. Instead of the trades or the subcontractors coming in and just kind of telling you what they think you should do on the project, you've already established what you're going to do with the client. The customer knows what they want. You've advised them as far as, made suggestions as far as what fits their budget and what's the best suitable for their project and their overall scope. So why would you let somebody else, unless they're going to make a suggestion that's better off than what you've already discussed with the client, why would you let somebody else that's not involved with the client tell you how the project's going to be built? I don't. I look to my different trades and contractors for input, because they bring a lot of experience and expertise to the table. But at the same time, unless they're bringing something into the light that I was unaware of or the client was unaware of, that's not going to happen, because we've already established it. So not only getting accurate bids and making sure the project moves forward in the direction that the client wants, to achieve that outcome, that desired outcome, but you're establishing a level of quality. You're establishing this is the different products and surfaces that we're going to be using, and these are the installation methods, and it's basically what, when, and how. So another thing is, if you've got a good set of plans and written specifications in your your blueprints, you're going to avoid unplanned circumstances. And I could just go on and on about the different things that you can run into, but because instead of just jumping right into the production phase, you've spent a lot of time investigating, you've drawn the as-built drawings, you've drawn concepts and different schematic drawings. You've really spent time with the client. You've really got to know the structure and the client and their needs. So you've got a really good understanding. And a lot of those issues that we've all ran into, trust me, I know. If you haven't, good for you. But most of you'd be lying if you said you hadn't run into unforeseen issues, because you jumped in too quick. And I know from my standpoint, sometimes you can deal with it and avoid budget overruns and different things, but it only looks bad for you and your client. So if you can, proper planning again prevents poor performance. If you can spend the time ahead of time and produce a good set of plans, that will help you avoid those things. And ultimately, I mean, most clients expect change orders because that's kind of the industry standard. It's my process to basically, if we do spend the time in the design and planning phase, I assure my clients that unless there's literally things that unforeseen, and there's ways to avoid that as well, but we provide the clients with what I refer to as a fixed price proposal. And so unless they change the scope, the price of the project is not going to change. Now, in a circumstance where you may open up a wall or a floor system and there may be rot in there, if you've done your homework, and inspected the project and the structure, you should see problematic areas. I mean, you guys know what you're looking for. I'm willing to bet that you're pointing it out to the client, trying to, create a sense of urgency. So if that's the case, you can do what's known as, implement what's known as a demolition discovery agreement to tear some of that, maybe the drywall or plaster out, to discover what's really going on behind there. And if it is really bad, then you can establish what the cost is to repair or resolve that issue prior to committing to the overall project. So, because sometimes those things can be pretty big, especially if you've got a crumbling or inadequate foundation that may, the structural integrity isn't there, and you may have to do some extensive work to bring that up to code for the new project. So it's your job. We're the professionals. We need to make sure that we put in the time ahead of time to take care of the client. So, because most of these people, they're on a fixed budget. They're getting financing for these projects. You can't expect them to just come up with another 10, 15, 20% over and above their budget. I mean, that's if you do, it's probably leading to bad relationships. I can assure you that. So moving on, having a good set of plans is going to help you stay on schedule, because everybody knows what's expected of them, and the suppliers know this is the materials. Here's what I'm supposed to produce at what time, and it's going to help you stay on track, not only on schedule but on budget as well. And all of those things that we just went through, if you don't do them, you're just asking for problems. And again, you're going to run into disputes. I mean, the client might pay the first change order, but it won't be very long thereafter that they're going to get pretty frustrated if you keep coming back for money because you didn't do your job. So again, we're the professional. And like I mentioned before too, most clients are financing, whether they're doing a home equity loan or a construction loan. They've got financing on a larger scale project, to the point where they need certain information even to close on that loan or achieve draws. So a better set of plans and specifications is going to be exactly what the financial institutions require. So you're only benefiting the client and yourself by moving things along, by producing that. So and again, knowing exactly what is going to go into the project, what it's going to take to build it, the cost, the schedule, the overall scope, you're going to be able to more accurately bid the project and provide a detailed, a more accurate estimate to where you can achieve profitability, and so you're making money, the client's getting what they want, and ultimately that leads to client satisfaction. and that's a win. And that's what the goal here is. So moving on to that's zoomed way in. I'm going to come back to this slide because it's not actually proper zoom, but this is my project development process. And what we're offering in the webinar today is if anybody that signs up for a 30-minute consultation, we're offering to give away a form, one of the forms that we showcased on the webinar today. So this would be one of them. It's just a diagram, but it is 100% tied to everything that happens through our project development process. So the second thing, kind of moving into the next portion, is having an accurate estimate and a clearly defined scope of work. So I'm going to kind of try to speed up here a little bit, but this is where Clear Estimates comes in. And I know a lot of you guys are coming to this webinar from Clear Estimates, and I've been using Clear Estimates for a long time. I don't even years, many years. And it's an excellent tool, and I'll tell you why. Because you can produce line item, unit-based specifications. And I'm going to show you some examples here in just a minute but I want to get through this, the gist of the webinar, so we make sure we covered our bases. But if you know precisely you're going to demolish this many square foot of siding, and you're going to install this many lineal foot of baseboard, and this many square foot of tile flooring, and you put that in your estimate, if the project scope changes, it's very clearly defined that you should be compensated because you've got 150 square foot of 12 by 12 tile flooring. If you just put, we're going to lay tile on the project, and I know some of you guys have probably, if you're not doing it now, you've done it in the past, where you don't write it out with, unit based and the actual dimensions and parameters of the project. Well, I got tired of letting the client tell me that they thought it was included, to avoid a dispute, I had to do it. So from my perspective, I make sure that I'm including all of those specifications, and that allows me to make sure that I'm covering my costs. Not only that, but also that leads to a more developed schedule. And so it's not only what's included, it's what's not included. So project deliverables and exclusions are critical to make sure that you have, if they're not in your estimate, they need to be in your contract. And then having a good project schedule with milestones, to me, a lot of guys push back on that. Some consulting clients that I work with have pushed back on that because there's no point in it because it just constantly changes. Well, if you don't have some parameters to go by, you're kind of just winging it and letting things go however your subs and vendors end up producing, whether they order things on time or you order things on time. If you don't have a schedule, then you really got nothing to go by. And nobody wants to show up to the job and the materials be wrong or not there. So that's only costing everybody money and pushing the project off schedule. So kind of moving through this, the whole underpromise and overdeliver. I mean, to me, that's just common sense. But with that being said, I can tell you that, I, as a salesperson, you have a tendency to want to tell the client, really like, hey, we can do this and we can do that. But at the same time, you really need to, again, maintain their expectations. So if you've talked about it, that doesn't necessarily mean it's included. But at the same time, if you've got detailed written specifications for your estimate and your plans, then it's very clearly defined. But making sure that even with your project schedule, give yourself a little bit of lead time. Give yourself a window. I'm going to show you here shortly how Clear Estimates actually produces actual time card or time clock editor, that it produces the hours, the quantity of hours based on phase for your project to where that's your schedule. So it almost does it for you in a sense. So if you're accurately estimating your project, your schedule is kind of secondary to that. Moving, the other thing is just make sure you stay in communication with the clients, and if you're doing that, we know there's going to be changes and there's going to be unforeseen things, but if you keep in touch and have good communication, usually that can prevent any disputes or any client frustration, or limit it at least to a certain extent. So, trying to make sure follow them at least, I know my location goes down from best in person, second best on the phone, and then from there, as I start reading, whether it be an e-text, it's the level of communication. I prefer support just to get on the phone. Sorry about that, guys. Can you hear me again? I'll double check there. A little technical difficulty. The system just booted me out.
I think you gotta reshare your screen again.
Yeah, let me get my screen back up here and see if we can't get moving again.
There you go.
All right, so my apologies. Apparently the internets are not my friend today. So moving on, not sure what we missed, but let me try to get my head wrapped around here. So again, just staying in communication and just do whatever you can to, keep the client informed, and if you do that, you're gonna be better off than not. So, one thing that I actually learned this from a consulting client a while back, was a real easy way to really kind of blow clients away and exceed their expectations is either, having all this clear, a clear scope and very detailed written specifications and accurate estimate is great, but that makes everybody know exactly what they can expect. So the owner knows precisely what they expect, what they're going to pay for that, and so on. Well, if you just do something, it doesn't have to be much, just whether you're, doing something that you had to take out of the project because of a budget reason, or even if you just give them a little refund, but just going a little bit of an extra mile for the client, they're not going to expect it, and you're really going to exceed their expectations, and you'll blow them away to where you'll earn what I call, a fan for life. They'll become an advocate for you, and it doesn't take much. So that's something that I've tried to do, and it really works. So I would recommend implementing something along that lines. Whatever works for you. So stage kind of the fifth key to the success of the production of your project is you got to set the table. You've got to properly set the stage. So you've spent a lot of time working with the client through the project development, the design and planning process. Now, you're moving into production. You got to set the stage. You got to let everybody know what's going to happen from here out, and make sure that everybody knows what's expected of them and what's going to happen moving forward. So if you don't have a clearly defined path, your schedule and your estimate and your plans, they're going to do a lot, but just having a roadmap, a project roadmap of what they can expect, something that's visual, that really goes a long ways, and it's easy to interpret, and it's going to provide a ton of value for you. And we're going to probably preview some of that stuff here if we get time. So the sixth thing too is, and this is kind of a no-brainer too, and we all know this. I mean, do what you got to do, but spend the time and get things right the first time. If you don't have a system and you're winging it, well, then you're kind of just, like I said, you're gambling. But at the same time, like, if you've got a proper system, you're going to be able to produce consistent results, that you're going to achieve the profitability. Your clients are going to be happy. That's going to lead to more clients. And ultimately, that's going to help you grow your business and, achieve a better lifestyle, not have to work so much. And I know for me, my dreams was, as I started my company and grew it, was just to keep growing and growing and growing. Well, at a certain point, all you're doing is working, and you have no life. And I hope you guys aren't experiencing that, but without a proper system and process, you kind of become a slave to your business and your clients if you want to maintain a certain level of success and client satisfaction. So moving through this, the last thing here is really, we touched on, it's communication. We can say that till I'm blue in the face. We all know it, and we've talked a lot about it, earlier on in the webinar. But a really simple way to express this to your client is a simple communication policy. And it's literally, it can be a one-page document that you share with them that expresses your phone calls, text messages, emails. It's our policy to respond within 12 hours, 12 business hours, and all calls, it's our goal that we return all calls the same business day if possible, and if they understand who is available to them, they're not going to be calling the people they shouldn't, who don't have the necessary information. And it's a more efficient process. It's going to save you time as a business owner, but also the client's not going to get run around. They're going to get the information they need when they need it, because they're talking to the right person. So having not only communication policy, but then having a protocol, for that, and then maintaining consistent communication with your clients, that's a big one. And it kind of gets overlooked because people don't think about it. They think it's just going to happen naturally. So this little diagram here, it's very simple. It really is. But it shows, the direct communication between, I call, your designer, I call myself a project consultant, because I not only do design, I'm consulting the client on multiple levels with their project. Well, I work directly with them. I work directly with the contractors, and if the owner has an agent, such as, an architect or somebody else, maybe that's representing like a project manager or such, then there's more people, more project participants. But you don't, as a design build firm or a designer, or, whatever you're doing, if you're working with a client, you really want to maintain one point of contact with them. And otherwise things just get confusing. And a simple little diagram like this, along with what we call project directory, meaning like here's where you go to find everybody's contact information. This will set the table, because I know, this literally just happened recently. A new client started calling me on a Saturday, and I didn't respond because I knew as soon as I did, there goes my weekend. And they were frustrated come Monday, but I explained to them, went through this and explained to them that this is why, and this is what you can expect. And they said, we respect that. Weekends are off limits, and this is what we can do. And as long as you follow through on that, their expectations are met. You know, you did what you said you're going to do, and they know that they can count on that, and it just works. But, you know, I mean, I'm sure you guys have all experienced where the client's calling everybody and kind of micromanaging everything and just causing headaches for everybody at the same time. So, you know, simple process, communication policy, project communication protocol, and your project directory. Those things are really all you need. But if you've got more than that, by all means, you know, do whatever it takes. So, going to get into, you know, really the way we achieve a successful handoff is with the use of technology. And, you know, that's where our CRM and our estimating tool, Clear Estimates, and then I'm sure if you're not using a project management tool, you should be. Clients are going to be, you know, they're coming to expect it. So you should get on board as soon as you can if you're not already using one. But I've used Buildertrend for some time. I've demoed or used many of the others too, and I've just found Buildertrend to be the most user-friendly and, you know, just fit the parameters for design, build, remodel firms such as mine. So we're going to go into and kind of show you real briefly some screenshots, and I'm going to, you know, show you kind of a process of taking the information out of Clear Estimates and implementing it right into Buildertrend, and how Clear Estimates produces great proposals, you know, estimates, because of the detailed specifications, because of the different parts and assemblies and templates that are available within that tool. It's very, very powerful. And then now, you know, within the last year, there's Clear Estimates and Buildertrend have built an integration to where we can import that right in, to where we don't have to manually start doing a bunch of data entry, which I know we all hate. So, you know, the technology, that's really, that's where the power comes, you know, where the scalability of your business is really going to be able to take off, and you're going to see the value. So, again, these are the steps. We went through the steps to a proper handoff. Is you got to starts with an accurate estimate, you know, detailed specifications. You know, we use a completion checklist for our estimate to make sure that we've done everything we're supposed to. And then we've got a room finish schedule. It's basically all the different rooms that we're remodeling, because you may not be doing the same thing in one room as you are the other. And then we've got project startup procedures. And, you know, that I discussed that the initial design questionnaire that we provide the owner, but there's also, you know, the project startup questionnaire, to where we need to know, how are we going to access the property? You know, are we able to use the bathroom? Do we need to bring a facility? You know, will the garage be opened? You know, just real simple stuff that if you don't do it, your crew may show up and they're going to be locked out, or they may not have a place to park, or whatever the case. So it's just simple things that if you do ahead of time, you're going to increase your productivity. You know, so then ultimately with those different forms, it's our practice to host what we call a pre-construction conference. So that's basically getting the contractors, subcontractors, any vendors as necessary, all on site, you know, prior to any construction starting, and just walking through the project, walking through the home. I like to bring, you know, my laptop and have the 3D model available, to where we can preview it live right there, you know, on the computer, and address any issues that may come up. And, you know, sometimes the project team brings things up that I missed or may not have thought about. So it's a very beneficial process, the pre-construction conference. It also kind of sets the table for everything going forward. You know, and then having your project protocol, that the project directory that I discussed earlier, is kind of critical, because if people can't get a hold of who they need, and they don't have the information when and where they need it, that's the whole point of the handoff, is making sure this process takes all of the information that's produced in the design and planning phase and hands it to the production team, so they have everything they need, when they need it, where they need it, and to actually do their job, instead of calling and looking and wasting time and money not having it, or not having the most current version of the plans, or maybe an updated selection or something. Those are the things that are critical. And then the last thing is depends on the size of your project, but it's hosting some performance meetings, making sure that everything's staying on track. So that being said, I'm going to open it up for questions, and I'm going to jump in and share, if I can, share my other screen here and try to give you guys a little preview of some things. Just let me clear my screen out here if I can. All right. All right. You guys seeing that?
Yep.
So I pulled up clear estimates, and while the questions are coming in here, I'm going to go through, and some of you guys may not be familiar with clear estimates. Some of you guys may be using it, may have been using it longer than I have, but so I'll just give you a quick overview of the program, and then I'll jump into the things that I love about it, and really where you can get some tremendous value and the power of the software. So again, you've got your customers. You can enter in your customers, their information, their contact information, and in fact, there's actually an integration, what I'm not going to cover today, where you can integrate with your CRM and pull that data from your CRM, so you don't actually have to manually enter in that. We're going to cover that in an upcoming webinar, so I'm not going to get into it now. But you can have multiple projects per customer, and sometimes that's beneficial, sometimes not. But once you get into, you've got your client information entered in there, you can add a project, and then you can move into creating your estimate. So if we're starting from scratch, again, a clean slate, I can start a new project and pull in some templates. I'm not going to do that today. I really want to just showcase the process of handing this information off from Clear Estimates to Buildertrend. So I've already got some templates put into this estimate, but really the process is as simple as this. You can go into the templates portion of the project, and you can edit your templates there, and I'm going to cover another webinar in the next couple months on that. But right from the project, you can literally just add a template or add a part. Okay, a part is going to be like a single item, such as installing baseboard or installing tile. A template is going to be more like an assembly, such as a floor system or a wall system or a roof system. But it can also be a complete project, such as what you're seeing here, like a kitchen remodel. Okay, so you can set this template up to where it's got everything you need in it, and you can import that template, change your quantities, and it updates and populates the information really quickly and highly accurate as well. So if you look down here in the project description, I've actually got a couple different templates that I put in here as components. And the one thing that I've learned by talking to a few different clients is a place where a lot of Clear Estimate users are can get some tremendous value real quick is when you're building an estimate, make sure that you're adding things as components or alternates, because that way it's not all in the main window, and you're able to actually exclude or change it from a component to an alternate, and it's a lot easier to deal with that way. So but as you can see, I'm going to basically this has a kitchen, a bathroom, and a few other different aspects to the project. You can see all the different line items that are here. There's the cost codes, the quantity as far as the unit, the different types of unit, whether it be lineal foot or square foot, or based on an individual fixture. but all of the information that is there, and you can see right here under this column, this is the labor hours. It's 998 hours and a half hours for the installation. Okay, and then you've got your materials, your markup, everything's there. Well, again, I'll go through this. Happy to do individual training with anybody that needs it, but at the same time, the goal of this webinar is to show the process that's really didn't exist, a year or so ago, and now it can save you a tremendous amount of time and increase your accuracy because it's precisely the information. So you basically can, right here under the preview table, you can export it as a PDF. If I want to send the proposal to a client, I can do that as well. But my process is to bring this information into Buildertrend. So I can export this entire estimate as a CSV file, which you're seeing, new project. I can export that, and then I'll open that file up here momentarily, and you'll see it's only the data that I need in Buildertrend, which is the quantity, the cost code, the item description, and let's see if we can get it open here, and the unit type. Oh, it's on my other screen, excuse me. So as you can see here, it's the accounting code, which I just call the cost code. It's the item description, so what is it? Is it, the installing, providing, the sheathing, and then the quantity, the unit price, and then the total, okay, which is the quantity times the unit price. So this information pulls into Buildertrend. We basically will open up Buildertrend here, and I will move into my estimate. I'm already there, so I can import from Excel or directly from Clear Estimates. So I can choose the file, which I just downloaded a moment ago. Where did that go? Excuse me, I wasn't paying attention where it saved it. There we go. Right there. And so if your program is not set up, there is a bit of process to import. So we can add to existing or replace. Right now I'm going to add it to the existing one. So this is what's called mapping. So if the cost codes don't match up, then you've got to go through what's known as the mapping process to map the cost codes from Clear Estimates to Buildertrend. I'm not going to go through that today, but if you're running into that issue, you need to set up your accounts so the cost codes are the same in both places. And I can help you with that. I've got an entire chart of accounts that we can set up in either Buildertrend or Clear Estimates. But that out of the box, it should work just fine. So moving through this, I can just go through, and it's going to tell me anywhere there's a discrepancy in these cost code items, and I can move through those and address those if I want. If not, sometimes it won't import them, but most of them should map out. So I'll skip through that real quick and then pull that in there, and then I can view the estimate. And that's a lot of data. I forget how many line items there was, but there's hundreds and hundreds of line items that were just imported into this estimate, and you can see them. And as soon as it comes up, you'll see them right here. This is Buildertrend's proposal/estimate tool. I'm in the format application, but you can see it's line by line specifications, and I don't know if everybody can see that. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit just to make it a little bit bigger. How's that? So here, so this, we were talking about roofing earlier. So it's install 150 linear foot of roof edge, provide the roof edge on the rake, on the eave, provide the drip, the underlayment, the ice and water. I mean, it's all there line by line by line of everything that goes into this project. As long as you've estimated right, this is accurate here. So the benefit of that integration is tremendous. And now, once you move into production, your production team has all the information right here in Buildertrend that you produce from your estimate and clear estimates. And the power here not only just starts from the estimate side of it, is you can actually now you can integrate with integrate those line items with selections. So if you haven't chose, such as, let's say, an actual roofing color, then you could go into the Buildertrend has a great selections tool, and the client you've bid it out because the colors, they all cost the same, but you go into that portion of the project and you look at, I think this would be the one right here, and now the client can approve their colors in here, which is just basically making a choice on that selection. So it's a very intuitive, and it keeps the client involved. And let's say they choose something that costs more, as long as you've got this set up properly, then it'll help you produce your change orders, and you can solicit bids from here if you haven't done that already. I mean, there's just a tremendous amount of power that Buildertrend provides, once you've got all of the specifications from clear estimates in here. So it's from there. I mean, I can go on, but I'm going to take a look at a few questions here and try to touch on those, and I'll probably showcase a few other things because I was kind of jumping around a little bit, but I really just wanted to cover the process. We're going to actually do some follow-up tutorials on this, so where we'll go into detail on each aspect. And you guys, anybody that's registered for the webinar should receive those links to those. Let me find the chat here. There we go.
No questions yet.
Oh, perfect. All right. Great. So as the questions start coming in here, what's one of the biggest things that causes problems in the handoff from sales to production is not having the right information, and not having the most current, and not being accessible. So a lot of you guys, and I don't understand why, but are still using the old legal pad and project binders. And I mean, I've got away from paper because I just can't stand it, because you got to keep track of it. But with Buildertrend, you've got their documents, their files. So you can store any document that you need, whether it be PDF, Word document, Excel, photos, videos, you name it. You can store it here. So it's all in one place. That's not only beneficial to you as the builder, the project manager, it's also beneficial to the client. So my practice is any product that the client approves that's part of their project that gets installed, I put all of their warranty information in here. So then they have access to that. They don't got to go hunt for it, and it just makes a big difference. And the other thing that we talked about today that we kind of hammered on over and over again is communication. And Buildertrend gives you multiple ways to communicate with your client, whether that be through the selections process and comments and everything, but there's the actual messaging tool. If you initiate the message within Buildertrend to the client, it's going to track that through, even if you're responding, let's say you use Gmail, it uses just what's known as just a forwarding, like a BCC address, to where it's going to track it in your project management system. So now you don't have to go hunt down an email that was sent, 3 weeks ago. It's all going to be right here in one place. And for me, that's indispensable, because I've spent hours and hours and hours searching for something, and sometimes you don't ever find it, in the olden days, when it was something that got jotted down on a legal pad and then probably got shuffled to the floor by truck, and who knows if it got stepped on or what happened to it. But if you ever run into a dispute, or you really need that information, it can be pretty problematic if you don't have it. With the digital age, with this technology, not only just the messaging, but the having everything in the budget, from the bids, the purchase orders, everything. So I use Buildertrend a little bit different than probably most contractors, remodelers, or builders do. And I use it all the way from the beginning of the project, because I take the client all the way through my project development process. And I'm going to pull that diagram back up here and review that with you guys here in a minute. And there it is. There we go. Just to kind of help you understand, like, we're focusing on the handoff today, but to get to that point, you've got to establish the project. And again, I'm excited. I mean, how many years and years that I went around working my butt off trying to earn, clients' projects, and doing free estimates, and just getting undercut. It just feels really good to have a process in place and not have to do that. And this is something that I'm continually developing and building upon, and it's been a work in progress for close to a decade now. And we call it project development. So it's basically 6 stages or 6 phases that have, each of those phases have multiple stages. Each of the stages have, multiple steps. So it's a very, very in-depth, involved process, but it helps wherever the client is at in their journey of, discovery, development. They're somewhere. They've either done a lot of homework themselves or they haven't. Every client's a little bit different, but most of them come, we get introduced to them when they're somewhere in the planning phase. And my process is to have an initial call with them, and it's a pre-qualification call, but it's to find out if they're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for them. And that process is basically, where are you at? How much homework have you done? What are your objectives for your project? What's your budget? It just really gathering information. It's a discovery process, and learning about them, their project, and their parameters, such as when they need the project done, and so on, and establishing, are they a good fit for our company? And that's not only what that comes down to is, can we provide them with value? And if it's a larger scale remodel project, then we can. But if it's not, we don't take it on, because they can probably get what they need from somebody else. And our process is really maybe unnecessary in some cases. But so taking them through the initial call, we offer what we call an initial consultation and project assessment, and we charge for that. We charge $250 to go out and meet with the clients on site and walk through their home, answer their questions, make suggestions. It's more involved in that. But so I don't even leave my desk without getting paid $250. And I'm not bragging, but at the same time, I'm pretty proud to be able to do that, because trust me, I wasn't able to, because I didn't have a process. And, I've talked with different consulting clients, and some of them will just say, there's no way, you're going to lose so many jobs. I do. I do lose clients because I charge. But guess what? I only have to go see a few because I'm being paid. So if you'd rather, see one instead of three and still make as much money as the three, then you've spent a third of as much time and you're getting paid the same amount, if not more. And that is my goal, is to work less, make more. And if I can do that and provide added value to the client because I'm being compensated, I'm not in a rush, they're hiring me as a consultant, then everybody wins. And trust me, I've had people tell me, even hang up on me and say, I'm not paying that. And they'll hang up. And nobody said they had to, but it's a service we offer. And many clients are happy to pay it because we provide tremendous value. So I highly recommend that if you're not doing something like that now, you look into developing a process to enable yourself to get paid as a professional, because that's what you are. Just like an attorney, just like anybody else in that's charging a retainer and charging for their time, you shouldn't be giving away free advice. I actually even laugh because some clients will tell me, well, you didn't give me any suggestions. You didn't give me ideas and stuff. They don't get that until they're paying for it. I literally only explain the process, which is what you're seeing in front of you. Which it goes through planning, the three different stages, of in planning through into pre-design and then into design. And by the end of design, construction documents is when we produce the plan. And then we'll actually start the bidding and then initiate the contract documents and then start, go into permitting and any other governmental authorities, such as maybe a variance or, maybe we've got to do a survey or something, whatever the case may be. But we're through 4 phases before we even get to construction. And even then, the first stage of construction is project startup, which we mentioned earlier. Which is in which we are doing that pre-construction conference and making sure that everything's ready to actually start. So there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, you're looking at my project development process, more than 3/4 of the process is prior to ever swinging a hammer or putting a shovel in the ground. And with that, you've got all the information you need, and it makes for an effective and efficient handoff to construction, and it just moves right in. I mean, you're just off to the races because you've got a system of process, and your team has got all the information they need when and where they need it. And the client knows what is expected of them, and they are able to do what's required of them, and your team's able to do what they're responsible for, and things just happen the way they're supposed to, instead of just kind of a hope and a prayer, which, again, there's probably plenty of you guys that are micromanaging things, or maybe you're just really good at it. I know you can be really good at it up until your company grows to that's not my term, but what's referred to as the tipping point. So at a certain point, you're going to have to implement a process and a system. Otherwise, there's not enough time in the day. You can't do it. Either your clients are going to suffer because you're doing too much, or your family life, your personal life, something's got to give. And I know for me, luckily I was single all those years ago. I just worked all the time. But now I got a family. I've got a 2-year-old. I got a wife, and I don't like to be away from them. And as I'm sure you guys enjoy spending time with your family and friends. So if you don't implement a process, you're just going to be beating your head against that wall. And trust me, I did it for way too long. So if I can help you guys, not reinvent the wheel and leapfrog ahead by offering some templates and a process and a system, even just maybe coaching or training to help you get up to speed, that is what I do. And the benefit of it is my background is I owned and operated a residential building and remodeling company for almost 20 years. I started when I was 19. Well, I started doing it when I was old enough to walk, but I actually owned my own company from when I was 19 up until recently. I'm no longer a contractor. I'm a design consultant and a design build consultant and a project consultant. So I work both with homeowners and contractors, but I represent you guys and to make sure that you guys are able to do what you need to do so the client gets what they need and everybody wins at that point. So we are offering anybody we're going to be sending out an email follow-up shortly after the webinar we finish up here, which we probably should be wrapping up here, but I got a couple questions I got to answer. But we're offering, a free 30-minute session. Anybody wants to get on a call, we can talk about whatever you want. If you're working on a project, I would gladly jump into your Clear Estimates account or your Buildertrend account and help you get it done, or put it, do whatever I can to help you, just to provide some value. And then if there's something else that we can do going forward, I'm here to help. And the benefit of working with me is I've got the experience, I've got the background, but I'm not tied down. Most of you guys are tied down to not only your business, but your projects. Well, because I'm not a builder and I don't do construction, I don't actually work in the field, and I only do consulting and project management, I'm here. I'm at my desk. I'm able to actually do and build and create these systems and processes the way a person needs to, because there's just not enough time. You don't have enough focused time to do it when you're being pulled in so many directions. So I get it. And if I can help you, I'm here for you. And I'd love to see you guys succeed and not end up beating your head against that wall as long as I did. I know, because it can be painful. But I tell you what, once you do adapt or develop and establish a system and a process, you'll ask yourself, because I know I did, I wish I would have did it sooner. So a couple questions came in here real quick. Robert said he wanted to know if I would charge a fee to present to a client. And I think that's what how would one present a fee charged to a customer? I'm not sure what that is actually asking. So how would one present a fee charged to a customer?
I think when you talked about not you charge for
the 250.
No, for estimates.
Okay. I guess I'm gonna take a shot at this, Robert. If you want to message in, maybe kind of clarify that if I don't answer correctly. If I don't answer correctly, reach out to me. We'll get on a call and I'll address it. But I think what you're talking about is how do you present? How am I able to charge a fee to even meet with and the client? Well, I think you're asking how do I charge for estimates? I don't charge for estimates, but I don't just produce estimates. The process is they're paying for your time, your expertise, your knowledge in the form of advisement. So you're a consultant. So the way I do it is I provide my clients with value by consulting them, advising them on many different fronts. So I can go into that in detail what it is, but how I'm able to do that is it's kind of a long story, but I'll give you the broken down version. It all starts with my brand message. So that's marketing, right? When clients find me online, they start communicating with my brand. I have what's known as a strategic brand message, which is promoting my company and myself as the owner and the lead sales and designer as an industry expert, as somebody that is here to provide value. And I'm very clear that we don't give free estimates, and very clear, like, this is our process and we're here to help clients get from where they're at, the idea and the concept phase, to reality. And that because we have a very well thought out process, I'll tell you what happens. You can sell it without anything, without a website, without an email template, without a PowerPoint, without anything, if you know and understand it. And I know this because I've done it, because I didn't always have the different supporting media and material. But I'll tell you what, having the content, such as a diagram, and different content, different media that will support what you're saying, and the more visual, the better. It certainly helps. I'll just tell you that much. It empowers you, because whatever your website is your message, your marketing message on your website is speaking to your clients, your sales process should continue that conversation. Your design process, your project development process should just keep, continue that client along the journey. If the way most people are doing it is however they find you, if you're getting an ad from House or Home Advisor or wherever people get ads from, or not ads, but leads, the conversation is starting all over. And then you may talk with one person on your team, and then you start talking with them. And if you don't have a CRM, then you're starting that, you're not tracking and logging all that information. You're starting that conversation all over again, so it's broken. The whole system and process is broken if you're not using technology and have a process and a system. So because our clients start communicating with us very early in their buyer's journey, and the conversation is very consistent all the way through, by the time they get to the point where I'm having the conversation of the next step is for me to come out and meet with you, and yes, we charge for that, they're literally asking, what's the next step? How do I pay you? Where do we go from here? They're closing themselves, because the process, the message, the communication has been so consistent from day one that they've either weeded themselves out, or we've pre-qualified them or disqualified them. The process it pretty much does the work. You obviously have to take the client through it through the sales and design process, but at that point, and I'm gonna have to get a client of mine to give a video testimonial, because this has happened more than once. And so I'll take a client that's never done this before and help implement this content and this process into their business, train them, coach them, get them up to speed on it, and get them to a point where they're confident enough to talk and go meet with the client. And just like I said to them, somewhere through the process, if you did everything you were supposed to, and you sent the emails, you had the phone conversation with the phone script, you followed up with the right information, and then during that meeting that they're paying for, by the way, again, during that meeting, at some point, if you do what you're supposed to, then they're going to say something along the lines of, so where do we go from here? So what's the next step? So how do they're going to close themselves. And that's what you want. Let them buy. If they're ready to buy, and they most often than not they are, because they've already spent some money with you. So biting off a $250 consultation fee is a lot different than a $10,000 design fee. A $10,000 design fee is a lot different than a $200,000 construction contract. So little at a time, let them graduate up to that big contract. And if you've got a process to take them from where they're at to where they want to go, then they'll happily pay you for it. So I hope I answered your question. I think there was one other question as far as how to get in touch. We'll follow up with an email. I didn't have my last slide was supposed to be, I didn't get it downloaded with my contact information. I'll get that in here momentarily for you guys before I close out. But you can find us at designbuildconsulting.com. You can reach me at Wyatt, W-Y-A-T-T, at Design Build Consulting. You can reach me directly and book a meeting with me if you'd like. We'll provide those links here shortly. And why didn't this open up? But I'll pull that. There it is. Put that back in here. Pull this slide back in here, and there's the contact information that you're looking for. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and hopefully I was able to get through all the information clear enough to where you guys can understand it. But if you guys are interested in learning more, look for some follow-ups. We're going to do some tutorials on this process, kind of more in-depth on how to do, how you can implement it yourself into your business. We do have availability to work with you guys if you need some help. You want to speed up the process, but we are offering any one of the forms that we mentioned or showcased in the webinar. We're offering your choice of one free form, if you sign up for a consultation. Again, it's free. It's just our way of getting to know you and hopefully being able to provide some value with you and build a relationship there. So we're here to help. I know speaking for myself that I wish I would have reached out to somebody sooner and not kind of beat my head against that wall and try to do it all on my own and by myself, because it's too challenging. So want to thank Clear Estimates for promoting and putting on this webinar. Both Jack and Alex are great guys, and they're great resources for you as well. Again, can't say enough about Clear Estimates, the tool. I don't know if you guys are in using the tool or not. You probably got the emails. They just added a bunch of templates. Just the power of the templates within Clear Estimates is exponential. So I highly recommend that if you're not using the tool to its capacity, you figure out how to take advantage of that, because you can save yourself time, money, and really increase your profitability, by implementing some of these simple processes by utilizing the technologies such as Buildertrend or Clear Estimates. So thanks again for everybody for joining us, and we'll be in touch, and we'll talk to you next time.